Here at Paddy Power, we're the home of the Money Back Special, with some incredible offers every single week. Check out the website or app today. Terms and conditions apply. 18 plus begambleaware.org.
It's back. We're back. Life's good. Welcome along to the first Racing Post football postcast of the 2019-2020 season. Bruce Millington, Mark Langdon and Liam Flynn from the Racing Post, as well as the guru, the first scorer king, the judge from Paddy Power, Jason Murphy. Okay, match week 1 in the Premier League, 10 fixtures, 5 on the box. We will be going through them all, bringing you all the very best bets and our naps. If you want our anti-post view, there is a postcast out now. Watch out for that. That's got all the relegation, the top 4, who's going to win it, who's going to be top scorer, and everything else. But we will start on Friday night, 8 p.m, the first game of the new season. Can't wait. Liverpool versus Norwich. It's not the most competitive betting heat, but I'm sure there's some value floating around. What are the match odds, first of all, Jason?
Yeah, Liverpool 1-9, the draw 8-1, and Norwich 20-1.
And is that 1-9 pretty much bang in the middle of what the market does, or are you taking a view on this game, Jason?
No, it's pretty much as the market will be, and I think the price is about right, really. You think first game of the season, Norwich, they might catch Liverpool cold, might catch them on the hop, but that second half against Man City, Liverpool showed why they're European champions. They're unbeaten at home last season as well, winning 17 games and 11 match winning streak against newly promoted sides, 8 of which they've won 1-0. And Norwich are actually the team that have a few injury concerns. Zimmerman is out, he's their main centre back, and their backup centre back Klose is struggling as well, and Tetty's missing out of midfield. So I think Liverpool are going to absolutely blitz them. Mane, he's only been back in training 4 or 5 days, so probably sits this game out. But half-time, full-time's 8-15, but I think Liverpool to win both halves at odds against 11-10 would be my tip for it.
Okay, there we go. Jason, straight in. Liverpool to win both halves. What's your idea of the value here, Lango?
I was looking at Liverpool to win 0. They won all 20 matches against bottom half teams last season. Only 3 of those scored at Anfield. If you want something a little bit bigger, maybe 3-0. I mean, this is...
What price is the win to 0?
Win to 0 is around about the 8-11 mark. I'm always worried about win to 0 because it's a bet that's never won until the final whistle. So it's not the most comfortable watch, but I'm pretty confident that Norwich are going to struggle up front. Really like their fullbacks, and it's good that they've got good fullbacks because we know how good Liverpool are in the wide areas. But if you're looking for something a bit bigger, maybe 3-0 Liverpool. I also thought that Salah was a very worthy first goal scorer favourite, with Mane probably not going to start. Milner is not the type of game where Milner needs to play in midfield, so he'll probably be on the pens. And like I say, if there's no Mane and no Milner, I think that is the absolute time to back Salah to score first. And he was very lively against Man City. I know he didn't put the chances away, but I expect Norwich's fullbacks, despite being very good, Max Aarons and Lewis on the other side, I think they've got it all on.
So the portfolio of bets is 3-0 and Salah.
Yeah, I mean, a Salah first goal 3-0 scorecast be the best way to kick the season off.
Nice, wouldn't it? Liam, what's your view of this game?
Similar approach. I like to look at Liverpool -2 goals on the handicap. I mean, Jurgen Klopp's had to deal with players coming back at different times. Obviously, Sadio Mane having returned on August 5th, unlikely to be involved. But I thought they looked really good against City in the Community Shield. 17 shots, 2 attempts came very close to crossing the line. And they ran riot 4-0 in their opener against West Ham last season. I think Klopp's very good at getting his team ready and fit early on in the season. And as Jason touched upon, obviously Zimmerman out for Norwich is a big blow. Closer sounds like he might be involved, but obviously won't be at full fitness. So I think that looks like a good bet.
If Mane sits it out, Mark, who comes in? Divock.
I probably think Origi will start on the left. Yeah. I'd like to see, I'd be a lovely chance to see Brewster, but the fact that that was the team he went with in the Community Shield, generally the friendly / match before is the one that you start to look at your combinations usually.
And I guess a Friday night start, Jason, it means this would be one of the heaviest punted games of the whole season, wouldn't it? Do people really pile in, having missed the whole summer of Premier League action?
Yeah, no, it does be very popular, and we've been lucky the last 2 games. I think United Leicester opened last season. It was a pretty good game. Leicester pulled one back late on, but United held on to win 2-1. And I think it was Arsenal Leicester maybe the year before. It was an unbelievable game, yeah. But just to say, we're money back as a free bet if Salah scores against Norwich on selected markets. So definitely, for the reasons the boys outlined, absolutely Salah's worth backing there.
Lovely stuff. We're off and running. Let's do Saturday's games next.
Right, 10 seconds to promote Paddy Power Games. Paddy Power Games, Paddy Power Games, Paddy Power Games. Advertising. It's easy when you know how. Paddy Power. Enough of the nonsense. 18 plus, begambleaware.org.
Okay, the first of 6 Saturday Premier League games takes place at 12:30. West Ham versus Man City at the London Stadium. I must admit, Jason, when I looked at the prices, although obviously, it's hard to look beyond Man City, my eyes did kind of widen slightly when I saw the West Ham odds, which are...
West Ham 11-1, draw 11-2, and Man City 1-5.
Liam, does 11-1 West Ham make you think, hang on a sec, I know everything has its price. Is that West Ham's price?
Yeah, it does seem very big, doesn't it? I mean, for the opening day of the season and the way West Ham are recruited this summer, they're shaping up very nicely. Nonetheless, I still think I would side with City just because they've got so many different methods of beating teams. They can blow them away or they can edge out results. I think that'll be the case here. I think it'll be a slender win. So I'd be looking at sort of Manchester City to win and under 3.5 goals. They did actually win this corresponding fixture 4-0, I believe, last season, but it's worth noting that West Ham were actually very strong at home against the rest of the big six. They, of course, beat Arsenal, Manchester United, held Liverpool and Chelsea, and lost only 1-0 to Spurs. And I just think the Community Shield performance, I wasn't completely convinced by Man City, although obviously they went on to lift it. I thought Liverpool were probably the better team overall in that game.
What didn't convince you?
I just think the opportunities that Liverpool had were better. They looked far sharper in the final third. Obviously, they had 2 very, very marginal sort of goal line decisions. I would say that City just aren't shaping up at the moment. I think they're obviously going to get better as the season goes on and then probably finish very strongly again as they did last season. So I don't think they'll come out all guns blazing. I think West Ham are quite a strong defensive unit as well. And now they've got Fornals and Haller going forwards. I think they'll make it quite a tight game.
So what's the bet?
Man City and under 3.5 goals.
Okay, Mark.
Maybe City can win 3-0. I was looking at City and over 2.5 goals here. I mean, I think West Ham have got a lot I like about them going forward. Defensively, they haven't improved at all, and that is a big concern when you look at the expected goals last season. Fabianski was the hammer of the year because he was absolutely brilliant, but that's a concern in itself. He made the most saves in the Premier League, and you think how bad Huddersfield were and how bad Fulham were, and Fabianski's having to do that much work. I do respect them at home, West Ham, and in these big games they've done very well. Even I was at the game when they lost 4-0 to City. It was never ever a 4-0 game. So I think they might be able to get on the score sheet. I don't like their defence at all, even if it is, sort of a Sterling-led City team. I think Aguero might be back, but I still think City absolutely, brilliant going forward. They're the best team in Europe. That's why West Ham are a double figure odds.
Okay, as Mark says, for those 2 tips to cop, Man City have to win 3-0. Jason, what's your idea of the value here?
I'd agree with a lot of what the boys have said. Fabianski is 50-50 for this game and Mark Noble is out. And if you look at the head-to-head, the last 7 competitive games between these 2 teams, City have 23 goals scored, only 3 against. And if you count friendlies, which I really don't, they played in the summer. Man City had a team that you wouldn't recognise. West Ham had a team that was made up of a lot of lads that will be involved in their first team squad this season, and City bet them 4-1 even under summer holidays. So I don't expect anything different this Saturday. Really happy West Ham signings. I think going forward, Haller, Fornals, great signings. Lanzini fit. Yarmolenko was a big loss when he got injured last season too. But defensively, like Mark has outlined, Fabianski was player of the season last year and player of the season for a reason. So Man City, 24 of their 38 matches in the league last season, being ahead at half-time, full-time clicked. So that's 8-11, so I'd be happy to go with that. Wait for team news before backing goal scores. A lot of bookies have Aguero and Sterling the same price based off Sterling started up the middle last time out in the charity or in the Community Shield. But if Aguero starts, I take 3-1 on him, but if Jesus starts, there's 15-4 out there, which is definitely a bet.
Excellent. Right then, let's do the 4 non-televised 3 p.m. games. We'll start off with Bournemouth versus Sheffield United. Jason, give us the match prices and your idea of the value bet.
Yeah, so Bournemouth 10-11, draw 5-2, and Sheffield United 13-5. Bournemouth have a couple of injuries concerned, probably the biggest injury list going into the season. Brooks is out until October, Gosling as well, Simon Francis late September, and a few longer term ones as well, Lewis Cook and Stanislas. So for me, Bournemouth, they've been very inconsistent, and if you look at the last 30 games from last season, they did well, started the season well, but over the last 30 games they would have finished 17th in the league, just 1 point above Brighton. This is their 5th year in the Premier League, but I think if they were to get a run of games like that and it just happened to follow fall in a certain period over the course of a season. They could have relegation form over the course of a season. I think Sheffield United defensively very strong in the Championship last season. They'll be looking to get off a good start in the league. So for me, I think Sheffield United +1 at 4-5 is the value this weekend in this game.
And that basically just means them to either draw or win, doesn't it? Okay, Mark?
I'm going against Jason. Bournemouth to win. They had a very similar game last year against Cardiff, which they did win. Brooks is out, but I like the signing of Harry Wilson.
Do you like their recruitment all round?
Well, they never do it on the cheap, I think it's fair to say. Like, Kelly was pretty expensive, the left back from Bristol City, and Stacey again from Luton. In January they got Mepham in from Brentford, but so no, actually. I mean, I just think value for money, they don't actually get enough value for money, but I like the fact that they're looking in the EFL and they're able to develop players. Ryan Fraser, has developed into a great winger. He's, got a load of assists last season. Callum Wilson, you wouldn't have said he was an England striker a couple of years ago, and now he is. And I think that Sheffield United put their team together really late, so I'm not expecting too many of the signings to start. I think that Chris Wilder, well within his rights to give the lot that have got him up basically from League One into the Premier League, deserved their opportunity. I like Bournemouth though. I just think there's going to be a bit of a difference between where these two teams finish the season, and 10-11 was fair enough.
And Liam?
Yeah, I completely agree with Mark. I'm going to go for a Bournemouth win. I just think 8 of their 13 league victories last season came on home soil. They're a very strong team at home. And as Mark said, they started last season in very similar fashion, beating a newly promoted Cardiff team 2-0. And I think Eddie Howe will probably look at this game as the most winnable fixture they've got all season. And obviously, Sheffield United, they tend to operate with that back three. I don't know whether they will this weekend. And I just think they could have difficulty containing the width and pace of Bournemouth, likes of Fraser, Ibe and Wilson. So, yeah, Bournemouth for me.
And we've got Burnley versus Southampton next. Jason, match prices and your verdict.
Burnley 13-8 to draw 21-10 and 17-10 Southampton.
What do you fancy?
For me, I think Burnley will be safe this season. They've goals in Woods, Barnes, Rodriguez, and even Vidra when he came from Derby. He scored 21 goals in the Championship, so he's got goals in him as well. But Sean Dyche, just the way he sets teams up defensively, I think is key. I don't think it's necessarily the goalkeeper or the centre backs, because they've been changed throughout the last couple of seasons. It's just the way they defend, they narrow the goal. So when a lad is shooting from outside of the box, yes, he'll have a pop, but he hasn't got the whole goal to aim at. It's very clever what they do. I think Southampton have a good season ahead of them under Hasselhout. Made some good signings. I'm just a little worried about Che Adams. He had only 1 goal in his last 13 games in the Championship. But he did get 2 in pre-season, so strikers can blow hot and cold. But Danny Ings is definitely a goal getter, and Charlie Austin too, when he's on the pitch, is good for a goal too. But for a bet for this match, interestingly, there's been no goal in the first half in the last 6 meetings between these sides, and we know Burnley like to keep it tight. So I'm going for scoreline 0-0 at half time, 13-8.
Oh, good angle, Lango.
A draw in the 90 minutes. I mean, Burnley tend to do most of their best stuff at home. Pep Guardiola referred to Turf Moor as like a trip to the dentist last season, and it's not a nice game for any team to have to go against. You don't get that physical battle in most other Premier League matches. I think Southampton are going to have a better season. They only lost 4 times against bottom half clubs, and I think that Ings and Adams will score goals. Just not sure they'll score them against Burnley, who are Burnley difficult to beat, and the draw.
Okay, and Liam, what do you fancy here?
I'm actually going to go for the Southampton win. I think they're overpriced. I mean, they've kind of gone under the radar a bit this summer. They showed signs of improvement under Hasselhout last season, claimed scouts of Tottenham and Wolves. Now his first full campaign in charge. He hasn't had sort of big departures to deal with this summer. He's had a full summer now to work with that squad. They've not done a lot in the transfer window, but I don't think they've had to necessarily. I think Redmond just absolutely flourished under Hasselhout last season. I believe they've made the Danny Ings move permanent, and Burnley lost 10 matches at Turf Moor last season, and I think they could be set for a rocky start.
Okay, Crystal Palace versus Everton is next. Someone pointed out on Twitter, Jason, this morning, and we're doing this before the transfer window closes. If you back Wilfried Zaha to score any time in this match, and then he transfers to Everton, plays and scores, do you get paid out?
Yeah, we've not in the T's and C's, because it's obviously it's very unlikely that would happen. But if it did, absolutely as a goodwill gesture, we'd have not in the standover anyways, I suppose. But we'd definitely pay out in that scenario, absolutely.
That's what we like to hear. Right then, Palace versus Everton, match prices, Jason.
Yeah, so we're going Crystal Palace 21-10, the draw 21-10, and Everton 11-8.
Now, Mark, obviously, as we say, we don't know who Zaha's playing for. He probably won't actually play for anyone because he only just came back into training on Monday. So I guess we do this on the basis that Zaha might get 10 minutes at the end. But what do you fancy?
Not Everton. I think 11-8, short enough for an away game because, I mean, you mentioned Zaha, but I mean, is Moise Kean fit? I mean, and that's the other one. I mean, he was always Moise Kean when he was in Italy. He went on Twitter and said it's Moise Kean, so I've no idea. But
it's spelt Kean, isn't it?
It is spelt Kean, but it was always Ken when he was in Italy. But anyway, I'm not. He's only just arrived at the club, so I can't believe he's 100% ready for this game. Idrissa Gueye is a massive loss for Everton. If you go back over the last 4 years, he's finished in the top 2 for tackles in the Premier League. 1 year he's beaten by N'Golo Kante. So I mean he's right up there in terms of that job he does. And I think Kurt Zouma is a bigger lot. I've not heard, other than myself, I've not heard anybody else bemoan Kurt Zouma's absence from that Everton back four. I thought he was really good on loan last year, and they're not as good without him. So I don't fancy Everton. I just can't back Palace without Zaha. So draw, a low-scoring one at that.
Yeah, I can't argue with that, Liam.
I think these are both unpredictable sides. So lumping on a result probably not the best way to go. I'd say under 2.5 goals would be my best bet in this one, especially obviously with Zaha's absence. I think that obviously limits Palace's attacking threat. As we said, Kean, whatever, he's possibly not going to be involved. The corresponding fixture was played as recently as April and ended goalless, obviously, albeit that was in different circumstances coming towards the end of the season. But no Premier League ground saw fewer matches in which both teams scored than Selhurst Park last season. I believe only 7 of the 19 games played there had both teams score. So I think it could be a low-scoring one.
And Jason.
Yeah, I'm not hopeful for either of these teams having a good season. But I think in the match prices, are wrong. I know we were talking in the previous podcast about ratings and how much you attribute a goal to each team. If you go back to the start of last season, the biggest player that would move a price if he was missing for a team was Wilfried Zaha. Even more so if Messi was left out of the Barcelona team. Prices would absolutely drift and collapse on the back of Zaha being out of that Crystal Palace team. So I think these match prices are reflective of either Zaha not being fit and ready to play or Zaha being transferred, because I cannot have Everton at that price. So for that reason, I'm going with Palace draw no bet at 6-5, or else to draw a half-time, full-time at 4-1, because both teams have had a really bad pre-season as well. I know you don't give much weight to it, but Palace, they opened by losing 6-2 to Barnet and they lost 4-0 to Hertha Berlin in their last game, and Everton have only scored 3 goals in 7 games in pre-season. I mean, it doesn't matter who you're playing, that's worrying. So for me, I'd be looking to get on the Palace side in this game. That's where the value will be.
Blimey, I feel hopeful at long last. It's been a very bleak pre-season. Finally, Watford versus Brighton. How do we bet here, Jason?
Yeah, so Watford, we have 5-6, draw 12-5 and 16-5 Brighton.
Liam, who do you like here?
I like the look of Watford to win. I mean, they had an excellent season last campaign, finished 11th, but could have been higher. Had their focus not shifted to that FA Cup final, which didn't go particularly well. Very quiet on the transfer front. Obviously brought in Craig Dawson, but not a lot else. And I just think they'll have too much for Brighton. I mean, they survived by the skin of their teeth last year. 20 matches lost. And Graham Potter, I mean, he's got very minimal experience of English football, let alone the Premier League. So I think he'll take time to adjust. So yeah, Watford win.
Liam likes Watford. Do you like Watford, Jason?
I'm kind of sitting on the fence for this one, really, to be honest. I think the prices are probably about right. I think Watford will have a decent season again, and I'm quite positive on Brighton. They've made some really good signings. Jay Webster, now, is that an indication that they're going to lose Duffy or Dunk? I'm not sure. But Neil Maupay as well, 37 goals in 85 championship games in the last 2 seasons. That's where they've had problems. And I think the likes of their signings that they made last season, like Jan Kabash, I don't think Chris Hughton got the best out of him. So I think Potter's come in there, and I would expect better things from Brighton for this season. In terms of a bet for this match, Watford have conceded 8 goals from corners last season, whereas Brighton scored 10. So there's a bit of a weakness and a bit of a strength there. And Duffy has actually scored 3 goals in his last 2 pre-season games. You'll get 10-1 on Shane Duffy anytime. 5 goals last season. The lad's an absolute monster, serious threat at set pieces. I think that's a nice bet, fiver for the weekend.
A new season, same old story. Jason loves Duffy for first or any time scorer. Mark, who's your idea of the bet here?
I think both teams to score. I was very negative about Brighton until sort of the last few days, and I do think that Webster and Maupay make a difference to them in both boxes. Will help them with the 3-5-2 formation that Potter tried at Birmingham. I spoke to somebody actually that went to that Birmingham pre-season game and said that Brighton weren't that good, and the 4 or 5 goals they got, that didn't tell a true reflection of them. But so that concerns me. Potter's changing the style, going back 3-5-2 formation. Wants them to keep the ball, very different to what Chris Hughton wanted. So I'm going to tread carefully with Brighton early on, and watching brief. I loved the Swansea team. Thought they played great football, but it wasn't always reflected in the final result. And I think that they, in terms of Watford, Deeney, and I think Delafeu's an injury doubt, but they've got good quality. I think Watford last season, as they showed, and I quite like both teams to score. I think this could. It looks like being sort of the worst game on paper, doesn't it? You think, Watford Brighton, but I think it'd be quite good.
Okay, the live game on Saturday evening takes place at the new White Hart Lane. Is that what you call it? Has it got a new name?
Yeah, I mean, they're calling it the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium at the moment until they get naming rights, but everybody just calls it White Hart Lane.
Okay, well, let's call it that. Anyway, it's 5:30, Tottenham versus the Villa, live on Sky Sports. Jason, how do Paddy Power bet?
Yeah, we've Tottenham 1-4, the draw 9-2, and Aston Villa 9-1.
You going, Mark?
No, I'm Gillingham versus Burton, working on that one. Steve Evans' first home game. You get home in time. Dartford Tunnel. It's the Dartford Tunnel crossing. You can never rely on that, can you, Bruce? I think here, I wouldn't put Tottenham in the Ackers, that's for sure. Just looking at it in terms of no right backs available, or Kyle Walker-Peters probably have to play there, but I think he's...
What's wrong with that?
Well, I mean, he's not very good, is he? I think no.
Didn't he play their first game last year and do really well?
He played there against Newcastle. I think it was 2 years ago.
Oh, was it?
Yeah. I say he's not very good. He's got a lot to prove. He's not going to be starting right back more often than not this season.
Foyt's injured, isn't he?
Yeah, Foyt's injured and Aurier's injured as well. So I think that they're a little bit weak in that position. And Ndombele is still very much getting used to things and life in English football. Then you look at Eriksen's situation, not great. Dele Alli's out injured. Heung-min Son suspended. So this Tottenham team is not the Tottenham team that most people are tipping to finish third come the end of the season. So whether you think Villa have got enough to win, with McGinn and Grealish in midfield, I'm not so sure.
You love that combo.
I do, yeah. And once Douglas Luiz comes in, who they've just signed from Man City, he's what the kids call a baller as well. That's gonna be real talent in that midfield. But I worry about them defensively, going up in level against someone like Harry Kane. Maybe Tottenham to win and both teams to score is one angle, or Villa on the handicap, getting a 1.5 goal start.
Do you consider yourself too old to refer to people as ballers? Do you do that?
Yeah, I would never refer to them. So, I mean, I in the big kickoff, I actually made that quote about Ceballos, and it was just changed to the baller, which I didn't like, because I mean...
That was what that big fight was in the office.
I'm 38. I don't think a 38-year-old should refer to somebody as a baller. I said something like, the kids on YouTube call him now, so I can't remember exactly, but it just came to the baller. There we go.
Liam's certainly young enough to call them ballers. Liam, who do you fancy in Tottenham versus the Villa?
I think that's too young for me as well. I like the look of Tottenham to win and both teams to score, like Mark said. I just think Aston Villa are going to want to play on the front foot this season. One thing they've got going for them is that they scored 82 goals in the Championship last season. Jack Grealish will obviously lead them. Interesting to see how Wesley and Trezeguet will do in the final third. Not overly convinced by those signings, but they're also going to likely be operating with a very different defence. I think Engels and Targett could both be involved for this game, and I just think Tottenham, they've got a superb industrious midfielder in Ndombele, and I think overall their quality should show and they should get the job done. They won 3 of their 5 matches at the new stadium towards the end of the last season. I think they'll have too much, but I do think they can be breached, especially as Mark said about the issue at right back. I think that could be an area to look at.
Jason, do you have a strong fancy here?
No, I'd kind of echo what the boy said. I won't be backing Tottenham at that price, but still fancy them to get the job done. And if they get the job done, then who's scoring the goals? Like Mark said, there's no Son, there's no Ali. Who knows what happens with Eriksen? So there's value in Moura at 6-1 or Lamela at 13-2. Moura 3 goals in pre-season. Lamela's got 2. So they've a bit of scoring form coming into the season. The other one I would tip up, one to keep an eye, you might click this week, but El Mohammadi is kind of priced as a sitting full-back, whereas he can play on the right side of midfield for Villa. So if team news comes out and it looks like El Mohammadi is getting down that right wing, there's 66-1 each way out there for him for first goal scorer. He got 2 goals last season, and Danny Rose will be coming the other way left back, so there could be a bit of space there maybe for him. So have a look at that when team news comes out.
Just on Villa, Engels, an absolute giant. I think he'll be a set-piece favourite Not that many people know about him now. Come sort of next May, I think he'll be sort of, the one that everybody sort of lumps on at sort of 40, 50 to 1, So we'll be loving Engels instead.
Oh, very good. Righty-ho, 3 Super Sunday games next.
Everything is better when it's bigger. Paddy Power's Same Game Multi allows you to combine a number of selections from a single match into one big bet. Check out the Same Game Multi tab and get building your bet. Terms and conditions apply. 18+, begambleaware.org.
It's the Racing Post Premier League Postcast, Week 1. Bruce Millington, Mark Langdon, Liam Flynn and Paddy Power's Jason Murphy. Looking ahead to 3 games on Sunday. We'll do the non-televised one first. It's a Midlands derby. Leicester versus Wolverhampton Wanderers. Really looking forward to this one. I wish it was on the box because I think it's going to be very, very interesting. Jason, how do Paddy Power bet on this?
We've Leicester 6-5, the draw 21-10, and Wolves 5-2.
You looking forward to this one, Jason?
Yeah, it's. If I had a choice of watching that or Newcastle Arsenal, I'd rather this game be on the box. I think it'd be really interesting. Now, Wolves are always low-scoring games, but it's the opposite with Leicester. It'll be a great game to watch. It'll be really interesting. Quite sweet on Leicester. I think they're going to have a good season. I would have been tipping them outside, possibly at a run of top 4, only for Maguire's now gone, and I think he has to be replaced. But Wolves, the European commitments are going to be an issue for them, and it's already starting. They're playing in Armenia on Thursday night of this week, and they have to travel back from there to get back for this game on Sunday. So for that reason, I think Leicester at 6-5 it'd be my bet there. Have a look at Vardy as well. He's 15-4 with one bookmaker. He's on penalties, 18 goals last season, and missed a few games through suspensions as well last season. So he should have broke the 20 goal mark there and would have put him right in the running for the Golden Boot. But I think Leicester to have a good season. Wolves have a good season either in the league or else get a nice run in Europe. If they get past Torino, they've 2 qualifying rounds to go. There was 33s on them last week. I think they've a tricky tie against Torino, but if they come through that and you're getting anywhere 20s or above, I'd have a look at Wolves because excellent record against the top 6 last season, knocked United out of the cup. I think with Spurs in the FA Cup as well, maybe. So I'd have a look at Wolves to have
Spurs at Wembley, Man United in the FA Cup, and Liverpool in the FA Cup.
Well, there you go. So I'd have a look at them.
They're good against good teams, aren't they?
Absolutely. They're just difficult to play against. They've had that system that works quite well. But for this weekend, we'll go with Leicester to win at 6-5.
Who are you going to go for, Mark?
Well, first of all, Jamie Vardy hasn't scored the opening goal of a game since New Year's Day, so he's definitely not been the first scorer's punter's pal. But in terms of this game, people say about Wolves' European commitments, I mean, there was always the argument previously that they're fitter going into the Open because they've played competitive matches, and then Burnley started badly last year, and everybody said it was because of Europe. So I'm gonna say that it won't be as much of a problem on this occasion. I'm going to go for the draw. I like Leicester long term, but they do need to replace Harry Maguire, and it is a loss. I mean, he's gone to Manchester United, the most expensive defender in world football. So that would be a concern for me for Leicester for this game until they bring in a replacement. And I think Wolves are the type of team that will actually frustrate Leicester, sit in, then look to counter-attack. I think it'll be an interesting watch, but maybe not the sort of free-flowing game that Leicester would prefer.
Well, that's Wolves, isn't it?
They'll kill it and then look for Jota and Jimenez on the counter-attack, and it's worked well for them. So
what's the bet then?
The draw. Yeah, I think it'll be low scoring. Yeah.
Liam, what are you going to be doing?
I'll go Leicester win still. I just think that, I appreciate what Mark said about Europe there, but I think travelling out to Armenia with still got a very small squad, and that was exactly the same situation with Burnley last year. Small squad playing European games early leading up to the season. It did have a knock-on effect, and playing a high-energy team like Leicester is the last thing you want when you've just come back from playing in Armenia on a Thursday. And Leicester just look really good. Their best players have been at the club for a while now. They're settled. Tillman, Gray, Barnes, Maddison, Vardy. I just think they're too good going forwards, and home advantage should count.
Okay, the first of the Sunday televised games, 2 p.m, Newcastle versus Arsenal. Really, really interesting game, this one, and no mistake. What's the latest betting, Jason?
Newcastle 10-3, the draw 11-4, and Arsenal 8-11.
We'll start with the Arsenal fan. Liam, is that 8-11 doing it for you?
I'd like to get a little bit more. Go Arsenal to win and both teams to score. I think it's always a good bet with Arsenal. I mean, so good going forward and so poor at the back. Quite simplistic view maybe, but I just think it always seems to cop. They place quite a lot of emphasis, the board supposedly, going into pre-season on improving away form, and that's allegedly where the interest in Zaha and Nicola Pepe came from. They said there wasn't enough pace going forwards, which you'd find a bit odd given that we've got Aubameyang going forwards, but there you go. Newcastle had a very, very turbulent summer with the uncertainty over the takeover, Steve Bruce coming in. 2 interesting signings for the future in Joe Linton and Sam Maximin, but I just think those two are going to take a lot of time to adjust to the Premier League, very young. That said, I still think with Miguel Almiron in there, Newcastle, I think they've got enough going forwards to breach what is a very leaky Arsenal defence, not helped by Koscielny leaving now as well. So yeah, Arsenal to win and both teams to score.
Mark, if there were two teams I wouldn't be backing on the handicap this season, it's Newcastle and Arsenal. I think they're both going to underperform. What's your view of how they will open their campaigns?
Yeah, I don't back Arsenal away from home at odds on. I mean, the record last season absolutely stunk, and I mean, what are you basing an improvement on? I mean, Emery's record in terms of away matches, even at Sevilla, was really bad. And it was bad under Wenger, and it got no better, even in the Europa League. Actually, towards the end, like, in some of the harder games, like they started to play well, but they still chucked in some absolutely horrendous performances in that you just couldn't see necessarily coming. One clean sheet away from home all season in the Premier League. That came against Watford when Deeney was sent off after about 10 minutes. So you look at them, Bellerin, not fit enough yet at the moment. Maitland-Niles at right back. Koscielny, is he their best defender, him or Holding? Not one's been sold, one's been out injured for ages. I don't like the left back, so I won't say that to Kolasinac's face, given what he was up to the other week. But I think Arsenal, if they carry, unless there's a big improvement away from home, which I can't trust, I can't back them, even though I've got serious reservations about Newcastle. Maybe there was talk of a fan boycott, but that actually, it sounds like they gave Bruce a very good reception in the last pre-season friendly. Maybe they've just decided they need to back the team, and
I think they'll give him a chance this one. I think if it goes Pete Tong against Arsenal, it might be
exactly. So I mean, I'd be going Newcastle or draw, double chance, just because of Arsenal's away form.
It's a tough test, Jason, this, isn't it?
Yeah, it's hard to gauge as well. Newcastle, if they take their regular 11 from last season, Perez and Rondon are gone. Diame, not their best midfielder, but he's gone as well. Played a lot of games last season. Richie is out with a hamstring and Yedlin's a doubt. So that could be 5 out of regular 11 from last season. And then you put in a change of manager, and a serious change of manager, like Benitez to Bruce is a downgrade in anyone's book. So it's hard to gauge where Newcastle are at, and therefore it's hard to gauge what the Arsenal price should be. Arsenal also, there's doubts over Lacazette. They're assessing Pepe. He played with the Ivory Coast in the African Cup of Nations as well, and Celebos has a small knock as well, so it's hard to know what team Arsenal put out as well. But just going off interesting stats from last season, if you look at draw half time, win full time, Arsenal were by far and away the best team. 11 times that clicked from them last season. So Emre, sign of a good manager, can change things up at half time and get a result. On the flip side, if you look at draw half time, lose full time, Newcastle were actually top of the table for that last season. 8 times it happened. So, the two of them were meeting. So I'd be going with Arsenal. I'd be going draw half time, Arsenal full time at about 7-2, 4-1. Arsenal just to be a bit better in the second half and suss Newcastle out.
Okay, just a quick one, Mark. Jason said that Bruce for Benitez is a big downgrade. I mean, how big?
Well, you're changing a Champions League, UEFA Cup and La Liga winner for what essentially was somebody that was seen not good enough to get Aston Villa out of the Championship. I think some of the stuff's a little bit harsh on him. He sort of, there was those pictures, weren't there, of him sort of, he sort of looks bloated and he doesn't look that fit. But I mean, Sheffield Wednesday improved rapidly when he went there, and there was that Luakai, just the relief of him not being at Sheffield Wednesday. I don't know, but you've got somebody that could manage one of the big 6, and he's managed 2 of them, and he could manage any of them against somebody that I don't think anybody else in the Premier League would have taken.
Okay, the big game of the weekend is at 4:30, Man United versus Chelsea. What a cracker this should be. Jason, Paddy Power's latest betting is?
Yeah, Man United 11-10, the draw 9-4, and Chelsea 5-2.
And you're a Man United fan, so we'll stick with you for an impartial, clinical, betting-focused view of this fascinating fixture.
Yeah, I think the prices are about right. If you factor in home advantage that United obviously have. I'm actually optimistic in a way, not previously, about Man United. The 3 signings they've made this season, I'm actually quite happy with them. Like, they're an upgrade, Maguire and Wan-Bissaka, on what is there already. And Daniel James, a lot of pace, and he's the right age too. Like, they're 3 good signings. If United could get top 4 this season and make another couple of good signings, 2 or 3 signings next summer, they'll start to get back to where they need to get to. I've my big doubts over both managers, Solskjaer and Lampard. They're both unproven. They've got very good squads. It's who gets the most out of them. I think Solskjaer would be in a worse position if United lose as opposed to Lampard. Solskjaer could be under pressure really straight away there. But there's a lot of things going in his favour. De Gea can't be as bad as last season. There has to be an improvement there in him. And if they hold on to Pogba, remember the Spanish transfer window doesn't shut until the first week of September. So there could still be a bit of head turning going on there as well. But I think United, look, if they won this game, I'd get an enjoyment out of it that I wouldn't have gotten under Ferguson if they had beaten Chelsea. United as fans have just kind of have to reset, and it's great in a way. Like United in the 90s, early 90s, they're going out winning games week in, week out. You don't even blink, but you get a satisfaction that I suppose the likes of Burnley or Brighton fans were used to getting wins when they're not expecting to get wins. So if United were to win this game, it'd be a great start to the season. But over the course of the season, I think both managers have a lot to prove.
And what's the bet then?
Yeah, I'd go with United. It's probably a little bit optimistic, but I think United at 11-10, I can just about justify it. If Pogba's on the pitch, he has been complaining of a back injury, which is a bit of a worry. But if Pogba's on the pitch, then I'll take United at 11-10.
United last year, that was the problem.
Hey.
Blimey, if he carried him, what's that say about the rest?
Well, yeah, but it does. No, it doesn't say much.
If you look at his stats from last season, when he did turn it on, he was by far and away our best player. And if he wasn't on the pitch for United last season, then God only knows where they would have ended up in that table.
I'll tell you what, I went up there last year and watched us get a 0-0 draw against him, and he was an absolute disgrace. The effort he put in was absolutely minimal. His contribution was pathetic. His body language was pathetic. The way he let our midfielders run past him all the time was just atrocious. And this is why he's not a great player, because he's a great player when he chooses to be, whereas your Roy Keanes and your Brian Robsons and all those other guys, they were on it every single week. Anyway, we'll see what happens. Mark, Man United, Chelsea.
Yeah, I wouldn't be backing Manchester United. So I mean, if you like the old Asian handicap, Chelsea, and you can get them with a plus a quarter goal, so you win a little bit if it's a draw. That would be one angle. If you are a 90-minute player, then probably the draw would be the one. I'm going to chuck in a first goal scorer as well. Ross Barkley has been taking penalties for Chelsea in the absence of Eden Hazard in pre-season. I thought it would be Jorginho because he's really good at them, but Ross Barkley
taken sideways.
Yeah, he did. Well, he does that. He does that one where he does the little jump before he rolls it into the corner. He's very good at penalties. But Ross Barkley's been playing either in the number 10 position or at the tip of a diamond whenever they've been playing 4-2-3-1 or the diamond. So he's somebody that's done very well in pre-season. So watch out for him. Just in terms of the game, I still think Chelsea have they've got problems up front because Abraham is unproven at this level. Giroud he's World Cup winner, but I think he's probably seen his best days. And then Batshuayi just isn't quite up to it, I don't think, as a footballer. So he doesn't bring anyone else into play. So they've got problems in that position. But you look at them further back, it's exactly the same back four, very strong. If Kante and Jorginho come together as like a two in midfield, you've got the makings of a very strong central midfield. And I just don't trust Manchester United to beat a fellow top six team. Maybe one of these won't be in the top six come the end of the season, but 11-10 doesn't really do it for me. I think I'd rather have the draw on my side.
Okay, and Liam.
Yeah, draw as well. Both meetings between these sides ended in stalemates last season. Arguably both teams in transition. Obviously Lampard coming to his club inherited a very young squad and he's got to deal with the loss of Eden Hazard. You look at Manchester United, I mean there's going to be pressure on Solskjaer if he doesn't get results early on, and Dan James, Wan-Bissaka, Harry Maguire, new players that have got to bed in. I think it could be quite a tentative affair. Maybe even go for the low scoring option as well, but I'll stick with the draw.
Right then, let's get the Week 1 Premier League naps.
This will not be beaten.
I'm going to start off and be very pessimistic. I'm going to go for Everton, draw no better. Palace, Mark.
I'm going to go for Bournemouth to beat Sheffield United. They won a very similar game this time last year against Cardiff, and I think United have put their team together quite late on.
Liam.
Watford to beat Brighton.
And Jason.
Yeah, I'm going to go for Leicester for reasons outlined. I think they'll start the season very well. Wolves have that difficult travel to get overcome, so I think Leicester start the season well at home.
Okay, and Jason, as per last season, Paddy Power will enhance our little ACCA, will they?
Absolutely. It's coming out about 15-16 to 1 there now, so we'll enhance that and get up on site.
Okay, so if you go to paddypower.com, into football, and that'll be in specials, will it? It'll be the Postcast ACCA.
It'll be top of specials there. You won't miss it if you go in there.
Lovely stuff. Thank you very much indeed. Now then, if you want Mark, Liam and Jason's anti-post thoughts, go on to our anti-post Premier League Postcast now. Absolutely filled with some really riveting stats and views. Don't miss that. We are back next week looking ahead to we've got two great podcasts. We've got week 2 in the Premier League, and we've also got the European leagues we're looking ahead to, whether Bayern and Barca and Inter and all those other teams are going to get the job done. Thank you very much indeed. Mark, Liam and Jason, back next week.
Friends, or maybe more. Earn a 20 quid free bet for every friend you refer to Paddy Power, thanks to our Friends with Benefits programme. Log into your Paddy Power account and share your referral link to get started. Terms and conditions apply. 18 plus. Be Gamble aware.